Hi, this is Sandy, and thank you for joining me to watch this family video about my Uncle Lester Nichols. In 1988, I received a Christmas gift from Uncle Lester. At that time, he was in his late 70s, and before that, he used to sing in our church choir. He had a beautiful voice, and he especially enjoyed telling old folk stories that he had learned as a young man. A few years ago, before that, he lost his sight and had to give up singing in the choir. And Uncle Lester's son, Wayne, and his cousin, Jean, from Des Moines, Iowa, talked Uncle Lester into making the tape you are about to hear, and I'm so glad he did. I wanted you to know about this particular gift because it didn't cost very much, and it will be something that I will enjoy the rest of my life. And I hope my children and their children will enjoy it also. While you're listening to it, think about what gifts you might give to your family and others in the form of stories and songs that you remember from days gone by. If not, just enjoy listening to this gift from my Uncle Lester. This is my Uncle Lester.
This is not just another ego trip of old man Nichols, but rather it's being made at the request of Wayne and his dear cousin Jeannie in Des Moines, Iowa, that I record a few of these old songs that I learned years ago. Some of them you recognize and some of them you won't. This first one is an old western song about a bucking horse. The title of it is Zebra Dun. I learned it when I was in Colorado in 1929, working on a road gang out there while we were building a mountain road up above Minturn, Colorado into a forest reserve. So we'll do the best we can with it. We were camped out on the plains at the head of the Cimarron. Along come a stranger and stopped to argue some. He looked so very foolish we began to look around. We thought he was a greenhorn that just came from town. We asked if he'd had his breakfast, he hadn't had a smear. So we opened up the chuck box and bade him have a share. He took a cup of coffee, some biscuits and some beans, and then began to talk and tell about foreign kings and queens. All about the Spanish War and fighting on the sea, with guns as big as steers and ramrods big as trees. About Paul Jones, the fighting son of a gun. He was the biggest cuss that ever pulled a gun. Such an educated feller, his talk just came in herds. He astonished all us cowboys with some jaw-breaking words. He just kept on a-talking till he made the boys all sick, and they began to look around as how to play a trick. He said he'd lost his job upon the Santa Fe, that he had crossed the plains to strike the 17. He didn't say how come it's some trouble with the boss. Said he'd like to borrow a nice fat saddle horse. This tickled all the boys to death. They laughed down in their sleeves. We'll lend you a horse just as fresh and fat as you please. Shorty grabbed the lariat and roped the zebra dun, turned him over to the stranger and waited for the fun. Now old Dunny was an outlaw known through all the while. He could haul the white out of the moon most every jump for a mile. Old Donny stood right still as if he didn't know, until he was saddled and ready for to go. And when the stranger hit the saddle, old Donny split the earth, and traveled right straight up for all that he was worth. A pitchin' and a squealin' and a havin' wall-eyed fits, his hind feet perpendicular and his front ones in the ditch. Now we could see the top of the mountains under Donny every jump, but the stranger he was growed there just like a camel's hump. The stranger sat upon him and curled his black mustache, just like a son of the border a-waitin' for his hash. He thumbed him in the shoulders and spurred him when he whirled, to show that bucking bronc that he was the worst of the world. And when the stranger had dismounted once more upon the ground, we knew he was a thoroughbred and not a gent from town. The boss, who was a-standing round a-watchin' of the show, walked right up to the stranger and told him he needn't go. If you can use a lasso like you rode old Zebra Dun, you're the man that I've been looking for since the year of one. And when we heard from Jim that he was always on the spot to set them to nothing like the bawling of a cock, there's one thing and a sure thing I've learned since I've been born: every educated feller ain't a plum greenhorn. Now this next one, probably most of you could just sing it along with me. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. How often at night, when the heavens are bright, by the light of the glittering stars, I stand there amazed and ask as I gaze, do heaven's glories exceed these of ours? Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Oh, give me the land where the bright diamond descend flows leisurely down the stream, and the graceful white swan goes gliding along like a maid in a heavenly dream. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Now I'll change the pace. How about one of the Russian folk songs about Ivan Stravinsky-Skvar? The sons of the prophets were hardy and bold, and quite unaccustomed to fear. But the bravest of all is a man, I am told, named Abdullah Bulbul Amir. When they wanted a man to encourage the van, or to harass the foe in the rear, or to storm a redoubt, they would set up a shout for Abdul-Amir. And there were heroes in plenty and men known to fame who fought in the ranks of the Tsar, but none of more fame than a man by the name of Ivan Stravinsky-Sklar. He could sing like Caruso, both tenor and bass, and play on a Spanish guitar. In fact, quite the cream of the Muscovite team was Ivan Stravinsky-Sklar. One day this bold Ivan went looking for fun as he walked down the street with a sneer, when almost by chance he did happen to run upon Abdul-Amir. Young man, said Bulbul, is existence so dull that you're anxious to end your career? For infidel, know you have trod on the toe of Abdul-Amir. So take your last look at the sunshine and brook, and send your regrets to the Tsar, by which I imply that you're going to die, Mr. Ivan Stravinsky-Sklar. Then this bold Mameluke drew his trusty chibuk, crying Allah Akbar, and with murderous intent he most viciously went for Ivan Stravinsky-Sklar. They fought all that night neath the pale moonlight. The din it was heard from afar. Great multitudes came, for so great was the fame of Abdul and Ivan Sklar. On the bank, stone by the bank where the Neva doth roll, there is written in characters clear, O stranger, remember to pray for the soul of Abdul-Amir. And the Muscovite maiden her lone vigil keeps by the light of the cold northern star, and the name that she constantly shouts in her sleep is Ivan Stravinsky-Sklar. Well, now, here's another switching tempo for you. Of all the old railroad songs that I used to know, about the only one I remember the words to is The Wreck of the Old 97, and went something like this. Oh, they gave him his orders at Monroe, Virginia, saying, Pete, you're way behind time. This is not 38, but it's old 97. You must put her in and set her on time. So he turned around to his black greasy fireman and says, shove in a little more coal. And when we cross that wild old mountain, you can watch old 97 roll. Now it's a mighty rough road from Lynchburg to Danville, and it lines on a 3-mile grade. It was on this grade that he lost his average, so you can see what time he made. He was going down a grade, making 90 miles an hour, when his whistle broke into a scream. He was found in the wreck with his hand on the throttle and scalded to death by the steam. Now gather round, you ladies, and take a warning from this time now and on. Never speak a harsh word to your true loving husband. He may leave you and never return. Walk, 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 walk. Now the rest of those old railroad songs you'll just have to get from other country western recorders, such as the Orange Blossom Special and the Legend of Casey Jones and some of those. I just don't remember enough of those words to make an effort at recording those for you here. And now who could forget the Red River Valley? From this valley they say you are going. We shall miss your sweet face and bright smile, for you take with you all of the sunshine that has brightened our lives for a while. Then come sit by my side ere you leave us. Do not hasten to bid us adieu, but remember the Red River Valley and the cowboy who loved you so true. For a long time, my darling, I've waited for those sweet words you never would say. And at last all my fond hopes have vanished, and they say you are going away. Then come sit by my side ere you leave us. Do not hasten to bid me adieu, but remember the Red River Valley and the cowboy who loved you so true. And now, while I rest my singing voice, and believe me, I do use that word advisedly, I might recite for you a short poem that I memorized back in 40 or 41 while I was servicing Sharman Rental Libraries before World War II broke out. The name of the poem is The Cremation of Sam McGee. I got it out of a book of poems and short stories of Robert W. Service, who did, I think, a couple of books of those poems and short stories. Wrote something like this. Strange things are done in the land of the midnight sun by the men whom all forego. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake LaBarge I cremated Sam McGee. Now Sam McGee was from Tennessee, where the cotton blooms and blows. Why he left his home in the south to roam round the pole, God only knows. He was always cold, but the land of gold seemed to hold him in its spell, though he'd often say in his homely way that he'd sooner be in hell. On a Christmas day we were mushing our way over the Dawson Trail. Talk of your cold, through the parka's fold it stabbed like a driven nail. If our eyes we'd close, the lashes froze till sometimes we couldn't see. It wasn't much fun, but the only one to whimper was Sam McGee. And that very night, as we lay packed tight in our robes beneath the snow, and the dogs were fed and the stars o'erhead were dancing heel and toe, he turned to me and, Cap, says he, I'll cash in this trip, I guess. And if I do, I want that you won't refuse my last request. Well, he looked so low I couldn't say no. Then he says in a sort of a moan, it's this cursed cold, and it's got right hold till I'm chilled clean through to the bone. Yet 'tain't being dead that's my awful dread, but thoughts of the icy grave that pains. So I want you to swear that foul or fair you'll cremate my last remains. Now a pal's last need is a thing to heed, so I swore I would not fail. We started on at the crack of dawn, but gad, he looked ghastly pale. He crouched on the sleigh and raved all day of his home in Tennessee, and ere nightfall a corpse was all that was left of Sam McGee. There wasn't a breath in that land of death as I hurried horror-driven, with a corpse half hid that I couldn't get rid because of a promise given. It was lashed to the sleigh, and it seemed to say, you may tax your brawn and brains, but you promised true, and it's up to you to cremate these last remains. Now a promise made is a debt unpaid, and the trail has its own stern code. In the days to come, though my lips were dumb, in my heart how I cursed that load. Through each long night, by the lone firelight, while the huskies round in a ring howled out their woes to the homeless snows, gad, how I loathed the thing. And every day that quiet clay seemed to heavy and heavier grow. But on I went, though the dogs were spent and the grub was getting low. The trail was bad and I felt half mad, but I swore I would not give in. I'd often sing to the hateful thing, and it hearkened with a grin, till I came to the marge of Lake LaBarge, and a derelict there lay. It was jammed in the ice, but I saw in a trice she'd been called the Dora May. I looked at it and thought a bit, then glanced at my frozen chum. Then here, said I, with a sudden cry, is my crematorium. Some planks I tore from the cabin floor, and I lit the boiler fire. And with some coal I found that was lying round, I heaped the fuel higher. The flames soared as that furnace roared, such a blaze you seldom see. Then I burrowed a hole in the glowing coal and stuffed in Sam McGee. Then I took a hike, for I didn't like to hear him sizzle so. The heavens scowled and the huskies howled and the winds began to blow. It was bitter cold, yet the hot sweat rolled down my face, and I don't know why. As that greasy smoke in an inky cloak went streaking down the sky. I do not know how long in the cold I wrestled with grisly fear, but the stars came out and danced about ere again I ventured near. I was sick with dread, but I bravely said I'd best take a peek inside. I guess he's cooked, and it's time I looked. Then the door I opened wide, and there sat Sam, looking cool and calm in the heart of the furnace roar. He wore a smile you could see a mile, and he said, please close that door, for it's warm in here, but I greatly fear you're gonna let in the cold and storm. Since I left Plumtree down in Tennessee, it's the first time I've been warm. Yep, strange things are done in the land of the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake LaBarge, I cremated Sam McGee. And now let's switch again back to singing for a little bit, or the best I can do at that. I'd like to try and recall the words to the first hymn that my mother taught me, and it was my first solo, as a soprano, a little boy in the First Baptist Church in Corning, Iowa, when I was about 10 or 11 years old. I come to the garden alone, while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear falling on my ear, the Son of God discloses, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. He speaks, and the sound of his voice is so sweet, the birds hush their singing, and the melody that he gave to me within my heart is ringing, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joys we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. I'd stay in the garden with him, though the night around me be falling. But he bids me go through the voice of woe. His voice to me is calling, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. Then there's another old hymn that I enjoyed singing standing right beside my dad, because he sang bass. And this is a few years after I sang the one in the garden, after my voice had changed. And I was in the early years of high school, and when I could sing bass and keep right up with my dad, that was a pleasure to me to be able to do that. So we'll do the best we can with the little brown church in the vale. There's a church in the valley by the wildwood, no lovelier place in the dale. No spot is so dear to my child as the little brown church in the vale. Oh, come, 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 come to the church in the wildwood, no lovelier place in the vale. No spot is so dear to my childhood as the little brown church in the dale. How clear on a bright Sabbath morning to listen to the clear ringing bell. Its tones so sweetly are calling, oh, come to the church in the dell. Oh, come, 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 come to the church in the wildwood. Oh, come to the church in the vale. No spot is so dear to my childhood as the little brown church in the dale. Now here's another of the old-time favorites that we grew up with, Railway to Heaven. I remember some of the phrases in it went something like this. Life is like a mountain railway from the cradle to the grave. You can make the run successful with an engineer that's brave. You can conquer life's temptations, never falter, never quail. Keep your hand upon the throttle and your eye upon the rail. Blessed Savior, thou wilt guide us till we reach that blissful shore, where the angels wait to greet us in our home forevermore. Then another one that was a favorite of put near everyone in those days. Let's see, it goes something like this. When the trumpet of the Lord shall sound, and time shall be no more, and the morning breaks eternal, bright and fair, then the saved of earth shall gather over on the other shore, and the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. When the roll is called up yonder, 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 I'll be there. Well, I think, guys, I better call this quits for this recording. If I keep on, it's going to keep getting worse, and then you'll wish I hadn't have tackled it. So let's let it go at that, shall we?